So I know a lot of you have probably heard the expression, or even to this day still use this expression, of getting your head out of your rear end. I can tell you this right now, I probably say that to myself on the golf course at least twice a round. And the good news is today is I'm not gonna say that to you. Today, I'm actually gonna say the exact opposite. We're gonna have you with your head in your rear end by the time this video is all said and done, because you're gonna start to feel what it's like to have glute activation, both in your loading processes and your unloading processes, and even into impact, just like you would see of the best players in the world. And you're gonna have this simple little trick that I'm gonna tie into it as you start to post up and let all of the magic start to happen down through the bottom of the swing arc where it matters the most. If you're just joining us on the channel, please do me a big favor before we go into today's video. Head down below, take a few seconds out of your time and just hit the subscribe button. Also turn on bell notifications. And if you like today's video, it's good for my psyche. It makes me feel good about myself. Hit the like button below. And if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to post those up below and I'll help you out as best I possibly can. Okay, so what we did last week was we just focused on getting you to feel the pressure moving through your feet and getting your hips to turn. We're gonna build on that today, but we're gonna build on that by getting stability in the hips. We're gonna start out by getting the trail side glute activated first, just so you can feel what it's like to have that sort of stability and that sort of load in place. Now, how I like to do this is I want you to go ahead and take a golf ball and set it up off the logo on your chest. And we're gonna make that same sort of pressure shift onto our trail side. And we're gonna get 80 to 90% of our weight parked underneath our trail ankle. And now what we're gonna do is we're gonna keep this trail leg flexed as we would at address, or as much as we do at address, and we're gonna keep this knee facing forward. We don't want this knee to turn out at all. Knees are not designed to rotate. Knees are a hinge joint. It means they're designed to flex and extend. Rotation is what could potentially blow your knee out. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna allow our hips to shift, get that pressure increasing underneath that trail ankle, focusing on the weight staying there and keeping that trail leg flexed and facing forward. And we're gonna do right around 10 reps just to get things warmed up. Now, when you do this, I want you to make backswings kind of at what your normal backswing cadence would be, but I want you to stop your hands and arms from moving when you can't turn anymore. So a little pressure, keep that trail leg flexed and facing forward. It's going to feel very short, very tight, and you're gonna feel muscle engagement that you didn't want to feel before. Now, this lead side glute activation is a little bit trickier to feel because, again, things are happening very quickly, but very much under the mantra that we talked about last week where we said, okay, we're gonna keep things simple just by focusing on the pressure and where it's moving through our feet. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna add in a component here that's going to allow you to start feeling glute activation on the lead side. So if you were to all stand here with your feet together and take your lead foot and pick it up and then stomp out kind of in your normal stance width, right? And you landed with your weight underneath your ankle joint. And then you took that weight and you just started to kind of pump yourself up and down doing a one-legged lunge. What you're gonna start to feel after you do this for 4 or 5 reps is you're gonna start to feel these muscles down here starting to get activated. Those are your glutes. Now, think about that movement that I just had you do. I just had you doing kind of a one-legged squat or a one-legged lunge, right? I want you to think about that same movement from a loaded trail side starting to happen with 80 to 90% of your weight moving underneath your lead ankle. So what this is gonna look like is from a static address position, we're gonna now load into our trail side, and now we're gonna one-legged lunge onto that lead side with 80 to 90% of our weight now underneath our lead ankle. Our head should have moved fully back into its original position. In fact, it's probably quite a bit in front of where it was at address. And it's now dropped down slightly from where it was at address as well. So now, again, you're focusing on where the pressure is moving through your feet, keeping that trail leg flexed and facing forward. From there, one-legged lunge down onto that lead side. Now you can start to feel that really big, powerful move, that sit move that you hear us talk about. I want you to repeat that process for 10 more reps. So load. Okay, now remember, if you're focusing on the pressure where it's moving through your feet, the hips are gonna work pretty dynamically here. If your weight's going to the forward part of the foot, there's a pretty good chance that your hips aren't starting to open up enough. So the way to fix that is to focus on the weight moving underneath the ankle joint. So when you load and you start to sit down, okay, into that one-legged lunge position, focusing on the weight moving underneath that ankle joint is now gonna get you into a position where your hips have come back to virtually a square position. That right there is now set you up to make the final component of what your lower half is going to be doing. That final component is where we start to make our post-up move happen. This is where we start to let things fly. Now, the secret move here is that a lot of you have to understand this very clearly, is that if you were to think about making that downward pressure onto your lead side and just simply pushing down into the ground, well, this is what we call ground force reaction. Just by pushing into the ground, what is that gonna do to your body? Well, it's gonna straighten your leg, it's gonna make you come up and out of posture, something that you're trying to fight off. What you're doing also from this movement is you also should be rotating your hips open somewhere between 35 and 45 degrees. When you start to push down on the ground and you rotate the hips back 35 to 45 degrees, what I want you to do is I want you to now think about both of your butt cheeks, both glutes squeezing together as hard as you possibly can. Squeezing the glutes together is gonna keep the hips from wanting to continue to turn open, but it's also, if you squeeze the trail side glute and the lead side glute together, it's gonna keep you from having the hips chase forward, and that's gonna keep you from going into extension and having any sort of vertical movement from your spine, period. That's the secret to this, is trail side glute, lead side glute activation, and then both of them working in unison as the hands and arms start going in and passing in front. So what I want this to look like now is I want it to actually start to look like a golf swing. You can go and kind of break this up into two pieces though, where you start from a loaded position and then go down and post up and release, or you can do it as all as one fluid movement. But you want to be able to back check this on camera, and what you want to look for is when you do this correctly is that your head should move off the ball slightly going back, your head should move down and back into position on the way into impact, and it should stay very quiet when the hands and arms pass in front. You shouldn't see vertical movement from the head when the hands and arms go whipping past your body. If you see that the head movement looks exactly like I just described it, then you can kind of shift your eyes down to what your legs and your hips are doing. If everything looks good down there, then you can start picking up the pace. That's how you want to be disciplined in this process. So let me show you exactly how I'm going to practice this. So I've got both these movements kind of in my brain. I'm going to load up to the top. From here, I'm going to go downward post, squeeze my cheeks. As the hands and arms are passing in front, I'm squeezing my glutes together as I'm letting them pass. Work at a pace that you feel comfortable. Okay, see, I'm picking up the pace as I'm doing more reps here. Okay guys, so there you have it. That right there is a perfect way for you to simplify one of the hardest movements in the golf swing to get right. And now you can get lower body stuff fully checked off the list, and you can go out there and start having some fun and start working on all of the sexy things that you like to work on when it comes to the game of golf. Swing plane and lag and forward shaft lean and all of those things that stick out into your brain. If you find that you're struggling and you want to have a second pair of eyes on this stuff, because I find that so many people within the game of golf go down these pathways where they struggle because they watch videos or they take a lesson, but then you go out there on your own and you just don't know how to practice this stuff right, then come over to the website, sign up for a membership. You get on our baseline membership for just over the price of what you would pay for a dozen Pro Vs. You get 2 lessons with me a month, and I will watch your movements to make sure that you're doing them perfectly, and I will help you lay out a practice program that's gonna help you specifically get to the end result, because everybody shows up to the door that's a little bit different, and it's our job as golf instructors to understand that you're different, and I like that you're different because you should have a plan that's perfect for you, and I'll work my butt off to make sure that you have that plan. Now here's to playing some of your best golf.